came back from the competition, and UK swooped first, second, and third place. So let's give them. So I wanted to congratulate them, but that's not why we're here. We're here for free pizza, right? No, just kidding. Free food is good and all. We're hoping that you leave here with something a lot more valuable. So we're going to be talking about something today. Life at a tech company. So what is it like to work at that tech company while you're still in school? The interview process, so hopefully we can give you an insight into what those interviews are like for these companies, as well as building necessary skills. So just certain points that we can hopefully give to you all that will help you get there and land these jobs that really help. To be honest, I'm getting ready to graduate in a year, and I would not be as confident in my success in the field if I had not had the interviews, the internship, and co-op opportunities that I've had so far. So, life at a tech company. I work at Lexmark currently. Lexmark was formed in 1991, and they branched off of IBM when they divested their hardware manufacturing operations, and they went off and formed their own company here in Lexington. And they were originally just manufacturing printers. That's not at all what they do. They're not exclusively doing that anymore at all. They've branched to a lot of different fields, and let's name some here: business process management, managed print services, enterprise output, and they have offices all over the world. It's a really big company. They just acquired by Ignex in China, and there was some scare with that, but it's only going to increase their market cap in China, and they're going to keep the same market cap they have here, so it's a really good thing. My life at Lexmark, I worked with two different teams while I was there, the embedded system team, and now I'm working the user experience engineering team. One of the awesome things that I contributed to a lot of code and a lot of products that are currently in the market, so like it had a real impact. It didn't just give me little bad projects to do because I was a student. I was doing like real world things that are in the market right now and being used. And I gained exposure to critical skills and tools that are used vastly in the CS field today. So for my first team I was in, I actually started an internship this summer in the embedded systems. I worked with their multifunction printer simulation software, where they're currently in an agile environment, putting out new code and new versions of the software for their devices all the time. They need a more efficient way of testing, so we don't have to test the hardware all the time. That's slow and wastes a lot of resources. So we're rebuilding their simulation system and making that better. So that's what I worked with during the summer. Some language we used were C++, Bash, Python. I was given actual projects to do to work on. The work schedule was awesome. We had stand-up meetings at 10 a.m. every day, and other than that, my manager was just pretty much like, come to the meetings, do your work, and if you need help being here. Otherwise, he did not micromanage me. It was great. And at the end of the summer, there was a student symposium that was where all the students that were working at Lexmark came together and put a big presentation of the work they had done over the summer. And the CEO of Lexmark was there, people from various departments, which is where I met the guy that was going to give me my next job at Lexmark, and the user experience engineering team, and it's the co-op that I'm doing right now. So one of the big things Lexmark pushes is that they want you to, while there, explore, and they don't really walk you down to a position. So I was exposed to various departments that came to my presentation. I got to talk to a lot of people, and I was interested in working in a different field. And I just talked to the manager. There was a position open, and he just made sure that I got in there. So that was really cool. Now I'm working with user experience. It's more front-end stuff. I'm doing CSS, JavaScript, wireframe, prototype, a lot of Adobe products and stuff like that. My work schedule, I have more meetings now, and we still have those stand-ups that the managers really want you to get to. But other than that, they're really flexible. They just want you to come in there and do
and had my stand-up meeting, and then got lunch, and then worked for about 7 hours straight. Just buckled down and did a bunch of work every day. I was on the iOS team while I was there. That's what I ended up interviewing for. We'll talk about interviews in just a second. But that means my primary language for the summer was Objective-C. I did a little bit of work in Swift, but for the most part, Objective-C. As I mentioned earlier, we used Agile. So we used Git for dependency management, and for source code control, and Fabricator was a system we used to track bugs and to keep track of customer complaints. So Automatic was actually a pretty small company. They had about 60 employees when I was working there, and I was one of 3 interns for the summer. So it was really cool to see just how a small company functions, because I worked at a few larger companies in the past. And they had pretty decent benefits, and one of the things I liked the most about working at Automatic was that you had a lot of creative control. I had a manager who was in charge of basically doling out work for projects, but really if I disagreed with anything, I could go talk to design right there and then and voice my opinion, and I even was directly influential in several different parts of the application that I thought didn't work very well, and they basically just said, okay, and just switched stuff. So, I mean, the ability to do that as an intern is extremely unique. I don't think you find that at larger companies, and it was something I really enjoyed. I felt like I had a voice the entire summer. So while I was there, my primary responsibilities were in writing iOS code for embedded Bluetooth communications. So the adapter syncs along trip data and keeps track of if your check engine light is on, a lot of other stuff too. But all that data goes over cellular and over Bluetooth as a redundancy. So I was working on the Bluetooth communications. That way the adapter doesn't just turn into a brick if you don't have cell service. It was really fun. I learned a lot about just like error correction over Bluetooth, very low-level stuff, like almost basically programming just straight C and sometimes. Another fun project I worked on this summer was data science visualization for trip insights. So it would keep track of how aggressively you drive, and it would show that on a pretty dashboard with certain graphs and reusable components that I helped build. One of the other things I did towards the end of this summer was setting up Twilio verification, so verifying your phone number with the app in a way that was native, so it didn't kick you out to a web browser or anything like that. And then finally, I was responsible for building part of the theming engine for the app, which was really cool because the app actually changes completely color-wise based on what color your car is. And it reads that all off the VIN, so when you set up your car, if your car is supposed to be black, your entire app turns black. Red, same thing. It was a really interesting experience trying to get that updated in real time. All right. Next, Smith's going to talk about life at HP.
So, hello. I had the good fortune to intern at HP this summer, HP Extreme, which is a local company in town. It's probably mid-range size. It's more than 60 people, certainly, but I would say it's smaller than Lexmark. And I worked on their web team, which handles their web-facing product. Their core product has to do with communication, and so it does large batch processing of, I have an XML file of like 100 million customers, and I need to print receipts for each of them. And so our engine handles doing that in a reasonable amount of time. And I worked specifically on the web-facing part of that, which was a lot of fun. My daily life was very flexible. I would essentially have a single Scrum meeting every day I had to show up to, and then weekly planning meetings I had to show up to. The point of the Scrum meeting is you tell your Scrum Master, for those of you not familiar with that job, you tell your Scrum Master, hey, here are my obstacles, here's my plan for the day, and they come back, you're like, great, we'll try to get rid of those obstacles, or no, something popped up last night, we need you to handle that now. And so I'd have my Scrum meeting, and then I would spend the next couple hours fixing any bugs that came up with that. Our code base is probably 20 million lines of code, and so there are just always bugs. And you have to manage how much time can I spend on maintenance and how much time can I spend developing new features. And so I would spend some time doing that, eat lunch, and work on a long-term project they gave me, which was something I got to create all myself from start to finish, which was a really great experience. That was Project Frosted Flakes, which was an application to help visualize with TestFlick. And so in our code base, we have unit tests. Unfortunately, they're not always correct. A lot of times they fail for reasons that are just, hey, we couldn't access the browser, a network request failed. And so we don't count that as a real failure all the time because it's not. But it happens so often, we can't tell what are real failures and what are fake failures, which is bad. So the idea of this tool was, on a project over time basis, graph test failures so a person could look at the graph and be like, oh, okay, this test failed like 4 times, all for the same reason one day. That's probably TestFlick, or maybe a new reasoning cropped up and suddenly it's like 4 failures and 1 new failure for a different reason. That one's probably real, we can go with the other 4, things like that. It was a very fun application, and it had a lot of value because I had to build it from start to like polished, finished, production-ready status, which is not an experience you get a lot in classes. You tend to build small modules or like pieces of a project. You don't get the full experience of having to tie it all together and polish off the sharp edges to make it something that a person can actually use. So that was a great experience, and really helped build my real-world reservoir of like how to do that, like writing your own unit testing, or like how do you implement a unit testing framework is something you don't do a lot in school, and I had to do for this application. Someone's going to come behind me and need to use those unit tests to maintain it. So it was a really valuable experience, very glad I got to do it.
Next, we're going to be talking a little bit about the interview process with companies we mentioned already. So first, we're going to go in order of company size. So I'm going to start with automatic interview process. So the way it started was we initially set up contact over email. I ended up emailing the CEO after noticing that they mentioned there were internship positions available. So that's not something you would do at a large company, but cold emailing the CEO ended up working for me. Next, we got on a screening phone call with the head of design and the head of the iOS team. And it was about a 30-minute call where they just asked me about my background, what I was passionate about Automatic for, and I was pretty passionate about the company. It actually basically saved my life when I got in a wreck on the Silveira parkway. So that was something I mentioned. Once we got past that, they set up a time for a phone interview, and then finally I received my offer. So I'm going to delve down a little bit more into that phone interview. It was about 45 minutes long, about 3 weeks after that initial phone screen, and it was effectively, I got on a Google Hangout with the head of iOS and another iOS engineer, and shared my screen and opened up Xcode, which is the iOS IDE. And they basically gave me a sample project with some unit tests that were already written and had me recreate NS Notification Center in Objective-C. So very briefly, NS Notification Center is responsible for sending notifications to your app when certain things on the system happen. Like, for example, when a phone call comes in, when the keyboard appears or disappears, when you connect a Bluetooth accessory, all sorts of crazy things like that. So the system has to keep track of who wants to be notified, who is doing the notifying. It has to basically keep a hash table of a bunch of different notifications. So I had to recreate that all from scratch. This was something that I could absolutely not have prepared for. I was sweating bullets on the phone call. Because it was test-driven development, once I got done with my project, they made me run the unit tests they had built before the interview started, and I got to see live on the interview my code failing before the interviewer's eyes. So that was terrible. What ended up happening though was, for each failure, they walked me through and asked me why it failed and had me correct my own problems. They did this so that they could see my thought process in the interview very well. They purposely made this interview as hard as humanly possible so that they could see me struggle. Because in my opinion, and from what I've been told that summer, you don't really get a lot of knowledge out of someone who just aces a problem. You get a lot more knowledge of how a candidate's going to behave on the job when they're struggling with something and they have to think critically on the fly without any preparedness. So
we did a lot of problems for CS 315 with UVA online judge, and I had done problems so similar to that that I told him, like, I know exactly how to do this. I've done this before, and I was honest. And he's like, okay, let's hear it. So I solved the problem fairly easily. Because of that, it was a little bit different, but still the same concept. And then there were 15 minutes of chatting, him just asking questions back and forth. I asked him what he was like working on smart and things like that. And he hung up, and he actually told me right there on the spot that I pretty much had the job. I received an email a day later, and I got an offer, and I started doing this.
So I also started off my journey to HP at the career fair, which was really great. I talked to them and didn't have high expectations. I handed them my resume and they're like, now you recognize this means you're essentially applying for the job. I was like, yeah, great. It's a big company like HP. Why would they ever contact me? But they did, which was cool. And so the process after that was I had a semi-interview at the career fair, which after that he took my resume. Then I had a follow-up phone interview, and then I had an on-site interview. So the initial interview was just to make sure I knew what CS was. It was very basic. It was like, do you know what a Java class is? Have you heard of C++? How is it different from C? Very intro-level things, textbook algorithms, just making sure like this is a CS student who has done CS before. The phone interview got slightly more advanced and shifted focus. This did not seem to be the case for other people I consulted, but for me, it was really focused on the object-oriented paradigm and making sure I knew that through and through. So they just ran through and asked me a question that essentially boiled down to, do you know how to apply inheritance? Do you know how to apply polymorphism? Do you know how to apply encapsulation? So made it through all of those because I know how to apply things, and I was good there. The on-site was much bigger in scale. Each of those was very short. The phone interview was about half an hour. This was a 4-hour gauntlet, so to speak. You get 1-hour interviews, all sequentially, and for me, each of them covered a different topic. I came in and the first one was a tech interview. They just asked me tech problems, and as I saw them, they kept asking me tech problems until we ran out of time, essentially. I was then able to complete some of them, which was not super important because it's about seeing the thought process. And so again, it's okay if you don't complete the problem as long as you're able to clearly communicate, like, this is what I'm thinking, I think this will work, this is why it didn't work, and I might proceed forward in this, way, some such. Nothing like that, just try to talk through it. And then after that was some more about object-oriented paradigm. They essentially just asked me to write out a class and explain why I thought that class appropriately encapsulated the state that the problem required, and how it followed good inheritance and polymorphism. That one was pretty cut and dry. And then testing was interesting. The fellow brought in a method, Python method, and said, how would you test this method? And then we just walked through it line by line, and he said, okay, and these are the cases to consider. And yeah, that one wasn't very cut and dry. And the last one was a kind of behavioral, just making sure I'm not going to trip up any red flags, ask me where I want to be in 5 years in terms of my career, why I'm into CS, why I'm passionate about it. And those all went very well, I believe, because the last interview made me an offer on the spot, which is really cool, and then I got the job. So that was the interview process there. That's pretty cool. I'm also interviewing with Google right now, which I'm not going to talk about. And so the process for that was very similar, except instead of meeting at the career fair, we met online through LinkedIn. And so if you don't have a LinkedIn, get one, because it works, apparently. So that's really cool. After that was a phone interview, which I messed up, and so I got the second phone interview, and the on-site interview. And so the online interview, they gave me a choice of 3 languages and just said, here's a form with 2 problems, you have an hour, solve those 2 problems. I didn't complete the second problem. I was able to complete the first one, couldn't complete the second one. I wrote a ton of code, tried to solve it 2 different ways, and just went up till time limit, like, okay, sorry, you gotta stop now. Again, emphasizing, you don't have to actually solve the problem. I got moved forward even though I couldn't solve it. They liked whatever I wrote, apparently. And then the phone interview is in a 45-minute, you essentially go into a Google Doc and just they hand you a prompt and say like, hey, write some code in your language of choice that solves this, which is very scary. But it's very focused on the tech side a lot of times. Depending on your interview, you get a little bit of chit-chat, and there's almost immediately into solving the problem, and the problem will take the full 45 minutes and then you're done. There was very little else to it, and it was important. They kept hammering this in, and it turned out to be true. It's very important to treat this as a cooperative thing. Like, it's not really a question-answer type of deal. You want to talk to this engineer and be like, hey, I have concerns about this, because in a lot of cases, I ran into problems and be like, I think this is a stumbling block, or I'm not sure this is possible. And they respond with, okay, yeah, that's fair. What if you had method block? Would you proceed then? And then I proceed forward with this magical method they're giving me to solve my current obstacle. And so it's all about seeing your thought process. And so they're there to help you. Even if they're curt, they'll still be polite and nice to you and help you through, because that's the point of the interview. The onsite was very similar to the one at HP. Their interviews were 45 minutes instead of an hour, but it was 4 of those split into 2 blocks with an hour lunch break in the middle. And the hour lunch break was a lot of fun. You get to talk to a Googler for an hour and just ask them what's cool about what they do, how is life at Google, and so that's very interesting. The more important part is the 4 45-minute interviews, which are very similar to the phone, except now you're in person or in front of a whiteboard. And so for this, I would suggest practicing on a whiteboard, because it's not always like innate to translate. Like, I'm thinking about how to solve this problem, I get stuck in my head trying to overcome obstacles, and you just forget to talk out loud, you forget to write on the whiteboard. It's very easy to get stuck in your head and just say nothing to the interview, which is not great, because the point is to show them what you're thinking, what your thought process is. So just try to talk out problems like with a friend, a partner, or some such. Come to programming practice, where we do a lot of whiteboarding. Yeah, so the surprising thing about this process is, at no point did they ask me any behavioral type of questions, which was odd in my experience from past interviews. It was just all 45-minute blocks, can you solve this problem? And it was very focused on reaching the best runtime of the algorithm. And so there are a couple of different algorithms that will work, all of them have a minimal runtime that you want to reach. And if you can't reach it, that is bad, I would presume.
One thing I will mention is that another part of the Google interview process, right at the very beginning, before you even get to the online coding challenge, is you take a 15-minute, basically a Myers-Briggs test. So it's a personality test, and they ask you hypotheticals about what would you do if you were in a specific situation while on the job. So I believe the reason why they avoid the behavioral stuff is that they already have a survey for that, and they're more focused on can you code, can you do it well. So next we're going to talk a little bit about building necessary skills, and Ethan Smith's going to start off by using a prep problem.
So I had the opportunity to do a training interview. They give you like a training interview before you come to your onsite, because your onsite's a big scary ordeal. And this is what it was, just given an array of relative indices. So you can see if we start at 0, it has indice 2, so I'm going to go to indice 2, and then I'm going to go to indice 3, then I'm going to go to indice 0, like that, essentially. Check if it contains a single complete cycle. This one does not, because we never touched indice 1. And so they asked us to solve that problem, very similar to how you would in a tech interview, and we went over, and yeah. So that's about what to expect from a tech interview problem. Unfortunately, I cannot give you more debate design.
How many minutes do they give you for this?
So this is one of the, I guess, less complex, simpler problems. And so I would say this would probably be one they give you as an intro. And like sometimes they'll do a 2-problem, tiny problem, larger problem, 10, 25 minutes split-ish.
All right, so next I'm going to mention some study resources that helped me, and I believe Arthur and Ethan as well, while preparing for interviews. So the first thing you can do is you can practice interview problems. As Ethan Smith mentioned, programming practice is a great way to do that. Although, is it being held? Yeah. Oh, okay, so it's being held pretty much every night at 8 p.m. in the ACM Engineering Annex room. So if you don't know where that is, it's the Engineering Annex room 102. ACM members are welcome to go there. And you don't have to be an ACM member to attend programming practice, but some of the resources that we use at programming practice, Caddis Online Judge, UVA Online Judge, and Project Loader, are all 3 great resources that have a lot of sample algorithmic problems that you can solve in a lot of different languages and test against both white and black box testing to see if you've got the correct solution and an algorithmically good solution, one that's as little order as possible. So that's one great resource. specialized interviews, such as for an iOS development position, or Android development position, or web, or really anything, they're going to want algorithmic knowledge, but they're also going to want you to just know the language and systems that you're going to be working with on the job. So for example, I interviewed for iOS, that's why they gave me an iOS programming problem, and asked me to solve it in the IDE that I would be working with while I was on the job. So just reading through the developer documentation for the language you're going to be using for the interview, depending on the interview, like in mine, they let me look up things in the developer documentation. You obviously couldn't go on Stack Overflow or any external sources during the interview, but if you just needed to look up like what method or function you needed to call was, then that's absolutely fine. And they actually encourage you to do that because it shows that you know how to use your resources well. So make sure you brush up on those. Another slide I'll go through is some suggested resume builders. So these are the things that I believe, and I think Arthur and Ethan believe as well, will help you all get a resume that will get you into interviews in the first place. So one thing, I've probably given my cat hack skill to everyone in this room, but ACM puts on a hackathon every year called Cat Hacks. And it's grown both years we've done it. We were at over 100 participants last year from all over the US. For those who don't know, a hackathon is a 24 to 36 hour programming competition that takes place over a weekend, where you can show up and build anything you want using any language or platform you want. It's a great opportunity to learn things that you're maybe interested in doing but don't have the time to mess around with. For example, if you wanted to get started on game development in Unity, or if you wanted to build an iOS application using Swift or Objective-C, it provides basically just a weekend where there's no penalty for you to just try stuff out and learn. So those are great. Having those on your resume, even getting prizes at those is great. Algorithmic programming competitions such as ACM ICPC, which we came from this weekend, and IEEE Extreme are also amazing. Google specifically pointed out they look for that on resumes to me on my screening call. And also just try to get involved on campus and organize CS outreach events. I think there's so many different great organizations now, IEEE, ACM, ACMW, I'm super excited about. And I think getting involved with any of those is a great step, and just having that on your resume. And if you can, even try to get involved in leadership positions in the government for those organizations. Cool. Thank you guys very much for coming out. Had a great time. If anybody has any questions, we have Cat Hacks shirts that we'll be giving away to anybody who asks a question. Yeah.
What is Cat Hacks?
All right. Cat Hacks is going to be next April 8th and 9th. And the site is up now. You can put your email on the website, and we'll send you an email out with registration. So tell me something. Anyone else? Yeah.
So if given an interview question that you really had no idea how to do, or just really didn't know how to start, what would you suggest for, would you just tell the interviewer straight up that you just have no idea how to do this, or how would you kind of coach them into maybe giving them a hint as how to start?
Sure.
Repeat that question, I'm not sure.
Yeah, so the question was, if you are in an interview and you get a question that you don't know how to solve, what should you do about it? So I know I had an answer for this, but you have one?
So if you run into a problem and you have absolutely no idea, I think that's pretty unlikely. But if it does occur, I would suggest try to decompose it into pieces. So even if you don't understand how to solve it, you can try to break it down. Okay, I have a big problem, but really that's just composing two smaller problems, and so on and so forth. And that might give you some insight. Even if it doesn't, trying to show that decomposition process to the interviewer, at a certain point, he will nudge you along. Because if you run into an obstacle immediately, maybe just having an off day, they understand and recognize that. They are trained to eventually nudge you in the right direction and try to get the ball rolling. So,
I would say also think out loud as much as possible. If you just sit there and don't say anything, the interviewer has nothing to go on. So they will probably also sit there for a while. It's much better and it looks better during an interview if you break it down and at least say, just even if you barely know anything about the problem, just say, okay, well I know I'm going to need a main method and these other methods. I know I'm going to need to accomplish these things in order to solve this problem. And even just modularize it, write things you know first. Then if you're stuck, ask for help. I specifically said at one point during my automatic interview, what should I do next? And he said, perhaps you should try blank. And then I did that perfectly. But there's nothing wrong with that. I think interviewers would prefer you be honest and upfront with them instead of trying to bluff your way through an interview. It will go a lot better for you. Anyone else?
8 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Sorry, Monday through Friday, every weekday. And so what we do there is we essentially pick a problem to work on as a group, and then we have whiteboards in the room. You can whiteboard solutions or practice. Like, if you think you have a solution to a problem, explain it to the rest of us so we understand. And that was almost one-to-one applicable to what you do in interviews.
Also, I'd like to mention that if anyone is interested in getting involved in the ACM, go to our website at acm.cs.uky.edu, and we have a Telegram chat that you can join, and you can ask any of our members questions like that, and even set up just external meetings. The ACM is really about just helping everyone as much as possible, so if there's an event you want to hold at the ACM, let a member know. Organize it yourself even. It would be a great opportunity to help other people, because for everyone who has a question like that, there are several other people who have the same question but just are too afraid to ask or don't want to. And who else had a question? Yeah.
Where do you generally find these internship opportunities?
Cool. So some opportunities I've found, has anyone heard of Undercover Lex? Cool, so Undercover Lex is a great resource, same as the UK career fairs that are held every year. Job fairs are amazing because you can go in and you can talk to someone in person instantly, give them your paper resume, which moves you up instead of going through an online form, and you have an opportunity to tell them right then and there about a project you've worked on that is applicable to their job. And sometimes you'll even have the opportunity to do either a mock or a very quick interview on the spot at the table, which is insane. So that's actually how I got the job I'm working at right now, Healing Design. I went to Undercover Lex last year and just talked to them about some iOS projects I've done in the past. And they called me back the next day and had me come in for an interview. So job fairs are amazing. Obviously, if you're interested in jobs, like summer internships, there are another few different resources you can use. So you can really just Google. You can use LinkedIn to find jobs. Glassdoor is another good one. Basically,